and welcome back to the Business and Banter Podcast. It's 2025 and we're back. We're ready to take on the year. I'm so excited for this year. But if you're new here, or this is the first time our faces are popping up on YouTube, my name is Hanley. I'm a car part reseller from Scotland, and with me is my favorite person, Sam. She's a clothing reseller from Australia. This is the Business and Banter Podcast. We talk a lot about business, there's a little bit of banter. Mostly we just try to add value through talking to each other about the things we do, because we quite like talking about business, and selfishly it helps me out quite a lot. So how have you been, Sam? We haven't been together chatting since, when did we end? Was it the first week in December?
It's close to 2 months. It's not quite 2 months, but yeah. I haven't seen you, so Happy New Year.
Happy New Year! Merry Christmas! All that jazz. I don't know.
Like we finished recording and we're like, okay, bye.
I know, that's that. No. We did keep in touch when important things happened. You know, we did keep each other up to date. How was your year? Because I've had a lot of time in January to reflect, and I've also had a very big. I feel like I'm so much more educated on my expectations of my business, because 2024 was the first year where I actually ran my business to the full extent. As in, I knew all my numbers, I made effort, like things weren't just happening to me, I was creating things, if you know what I mean. Where I feel like the first 3 years I was very much just, things were just happening. And so I actually sat down and I crunched all my numbers, like to the last penny, every single expense, every single tax, and I think I cried a little bit, and then I came to the realization, I did a lot of research about what profit there actually is in reselling.
And what was your conclusion on that? Was it good or bad?
No, I think it's good. So to give you a rough idea, I've worked out that with all the taxes, all the expenses, this is net in my bank. As in, if it hits my bank, I owe no one nothing. No income tax, no e-rate. Like, I've paid every single bill. As in, this is my. But in order, right, for my business, and I've ran this with a couple of people. So just on the basis, if I was to do 327,000 gross turnover, okay, my net take home pay would be 93,053.
So it's about 28%.
Yeah, so we look at this massive number and we think, oh, I'm killing it. I think in my head, I wasn't very, because I used to work it out, and I'll tell you, because I've said this to a few people. People ask, what's your net profit margin? And I would be like, oh, it's like 38 point something %. But I realized how many expenses I didn't actually take into account for that.
Yeah, it's even worse when you take out taxes.
I know.
The taxes are such a huge chunk.
I know. But then the 93,000 is before my personal tax. So if you take that off, it's 74,442. Okay, let's just be very honest about this here. And so having to reflect on the fact that I have to do that massive number to get the 74, that was quite eye-opening to me. Also, that includes, I've already paid myself my standard salary in that.
Yeah, of course. So it's money that's not allocated for anything.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, and just to put it, because then people are going to say, like, well, maybe you've paid yourself 200,000. I've not paid myself 200,000. That's my 18,000 I pay myself as a basic salary, which is enough to cover my free allowance for tax and an 8% that I get as director's joy. And I don't live very lavishly. It pays some bills and my kids' activities, and we're happy to go. So I don't mind being very honest about that. So if I take my 18 grand salary, which is what I get, I do 327,000. And just to give you an idea, this is my cost of goods at £4, my average sale price at £30. Okay.
Yeah.
Then I would be able to bank money with nowhere else to go of £74,442.72. And I think it's a real realization when you sit down and you think, in order to do 327,000, I'm doing that just to make 75,000.
It's
And I
crazy.
think initially it hurt a lot. And I was like, oh, that is like, why so much? And then afterwards, I think I started to feel like, actually, I could just have 75,000 by the end of next year. And all I have to do is just do a little bit more than what I'm doing now. And so I found it a bit depressing at first and now really motivating.
So there's something that I would like to reflect back to you on that is, so let's say you do 350,000, right? Just that little bit above. As long as your like overheads don't go up, like if you can contain it within your warehouse, for every dollar above, your profit margin on that's technically higher because you don't have to increase your holding capacity. You don't. It's only going to be the cost of goods, the post, the eBay fees, and the taxes. Like your electricity is going to be the same. Your rent's going to be the same. Your mortgage is going to be the same. All those variables remain the same. So the more that we do above what we need to break even, the profit margin on those amounts of money above that is where we make all the money.
Yes. I also want to say that these numbers are based on the model my business was in for the last 3 months of last year. So this is if I just do what I did last year, then that's where I would be. Obviously, I don't plan to do that. And as you say, fixed cost actually increases profitability in the long run because they won't increase. I have so much more space in my warehouse that I'm able to utilize. So you do get more profitable the higher you go. But one thing it did make me realize is that in order to really make substantial amount of money, you have to do more. I cannot save my way. I cannot save my way to more profitability because when I looked at my expenses, I only have the required expenses.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I feel like with this model, my business is already lean. Like it's a lean business. So I think for me, I've realized that the only thing I need to focus on is do more.
Yeah.
And I also want to say that you can actually, no, because this is another, I've been thinking about this so much, like it's in my head. So I would then pay corporation tax on that amount of money. But if I was able to use the money I would pay for corporation tax, which is like my company tax, to invest in things in the business, okay, to speed up processes, so let's say I am due to pay £25,000 in corporation tax this year, and instead I go buy a £20,000 pallet truck to help me move the stuff faster because that is an expense in the business and it adds value to it. And I don't think that's something people think about enough. We get our tax bills and we figure out how much we have to pay and then we just pay it over. There's so many ways you can utilize the money you would have given to the tax man, HMRC by us, to actually improve your business in the long run, which is something I never sat down and really thought about.
Well, that's what I did with getting the ute, the truck, whatever you want to call it. I bought that so I could depreciate it against my taxes. So it's on a lease. I don't own it outright, but then I can claim all the interest from the lease that I have. So I'm claiming that every quarter. Obviously, I don't get to claim GST, which is your VAT tax on that, but it comes off my personal income tax or business's income tax. But then the asset depreciates as well. So I get to claim back $10,000 worth for 4 years or 5 years. But that's then money I can then go spend because I don't have it allocated to anything because it just naturally occurs as the car exists in the world. So I like the idea of being able to leverage, but I think it's when you over leverage, you can actually run into problems.
Yes. But I've never thought of that pocket of money there as anything other than I just need to pay it over. And I'm not trying to say don't pay your taxes, please pay your taxes. I'm saying there's legal ways and good ways that you can reduce your taxes. So I just always assume that's the amount I have to pay over to them. I know it's been said before, but I guess it never clicked with me that I can actually utilize that money. It's leaving the business anyway.
Correct. Yeah.
It's leaving anyway. So why would I not want it to leave in a way that serves me better?
Yeah, absolutely. Like for me, I just this month we purchased 2 iPads to be able to speed up the picking of being able to get the items out of the shed, so that we don't ping pong back and forth from a laptop. We just have the iPads and we circumnavigate the sheds. And within that, like, it's $1,000 that comes out of the business, but it's bought me back an hour worth of time, but then I don't pay taxes on $1,000. So it's like those things that you can do to leverage in the small as well, that then come out to be able to reduce your taxes overall and help you get back time. Like, getting back time is the greatest thing in the world.
I know. And also, getting back anytime I can now helps me in my long-term goal of doing more. Because I can't save myself to more money, but if I save myself time, I give myself more opportunities to do more.
Yeah. And if you are able to buy back your time, then you can produce more work, which then allows you to make more money. So it becomes like you double up at the end.
Yeah. Did you have any big takeaways from 2024 in your business? Have you sat down and had a real look at it? And because I do know you love a good analysis of things.
I do.
You do.
So overall, between eBay, my market stall, and Facebook Marketplace, obviously Facebook Marketplace is the most profitable because there's no fees associated with anything. The market stall comes in at the second most profitable thing because the market stall fees are only $25. So it's just the cost of goods for the item, which is quite low. So I'm very fortunate there. But obviously the bulk of the money came in from eBay. So then it's like, where do I allocate my time? Because between all of those endeavors, I made over $400,000 for the year. But the markets give me more money to be able to leverage within the business, and same as Facebook Marketplace. So it's about where I want to direct my time. So I'm trying to buy back time to be able to do all the things I want to do, because I want to be able to keep doing all of those. But I want to grow the business as well. So it's about making those small nuances to my nuance changes to my time. So I'm really taking a step back every day at the end of the day to really analyze. Like today, it's nearly 8 o'clock here. I was up at 5. I did the post, even though it's a Saturday, because it's getting too heavy. I then went out and I sourced until 2 o'clock in the afternoon in the sun. It's like 44 degrees here today, and I was outside in the sun sourcing all day. I then came home. I had to bust out 90 sets of photos. I've had to list. I had to cook dinner, and I'm here. And I'm very tired, but I'm like, it's the perfect day. Whereas if I was to, like, I don't know, let's just say interrupt the day with having dinner out now, it wouldn't work because I have to go sourcing. So I have to have the days set in a manner that everything just flows and I can get it done. And I have to be really honest with myself when I go to bed at night and be like, did today work? Why didn't it work? And if it doesn't work, I need to find what that part is to be able to then move it to a different day and really just nail the schedule, I guess is the best way to put it.
That's something that I've learned from you and that I like reflect on quite a lot, is managing the day better. I'm used to be a bit of like a whirlwind, is I just wake up and I just like tornado my way through the day and then get to the end and it's like, here I am. Like I ticked everything on the box and I'll tell you something. It's extremely like convicting to sit and analyze your day and be very honest with yourself about what you were doing. And I'll tell you right now, I check my Instagram and Facebook usage, which is a little off because I use Facebook to source quite a lot, but not as much as I use it to scroll. But it came down to the fact that there was 519 hours last year.
Wow.
That's like 21 days.
That's a lot.
21 consecutive days.
That's 3 weeks.
Yes. And I'll tell you right now, nothing I did on Instagram improved my business.
I don't know, dropping into my DM seemed to be helpful.
I mean that, or I did make really good friends, and this is not a shade at my friends. I but I've put a 15-minute limit on Instagram since the start of January, and 15 minutes is just, and I'll tell you why 15 minutes, because our teenage daughter mainly interacts with us through reels on Instagram. That's literally the only communication we have, is she sends us reels and we send her reels. And so 15 minutes a day is enough for me to keep that conversation going.
Yeah. It's
Everyone
amazing.
else, sorry.
No, you go.
Everyone else that I care about now either has my telephone number or has me on Facebook Messengers, because Messenger I can open without going onto Facebook. It's a different app.
Yeah.
Okay. My issue with Instagram is that you can't open Instagram messages without going into the app, and then you start scrolling and you see, and it's like this crazy little circle. And I've really had to sit down and ask myself and be very honest with myself and said, if I only used half of those 519 hours to work on my business, so let's say I did 260 of those hours I spent doing extra work in my business, my husband would already be in the business.
Oh, the amount of potential. Like, let's say it's 4 minutes for a listing, right? And like there's 60 minutes in an hour. Like you could have pumped out uh, uh like if you put the numbers to it over the course of a year, that's literally thousands of listings that could have been done.
But my husband still has to do 17-hour days and work 2 jobs, in his job and the business, and wake up every morning at 4:30 because I was on social media when I could have committed that time to being in the business and putting him in the business. And I think that was just really like sad to me. Okay, I do also want to say that we did the same thing for him and he's just as guilty as I am. So he's not some abused man that like his wife cares more about Instagram than she does about him. Just that's not what I'm saying, okay? He has the same problems. We have the same problems. We both now only have 15 minutes on Instagram. And we've actually like
no one thought partner was abused.
Someone out there will be like, her husband's slaving himself to death as she's scrolling Instagram. That's not the case. So I think for us this year, it's going to be about completely eliminating that type of stuff, living in the present world, not in the virtual world, and just really focusing on active things we can do in our day to grow our lives. And that includes time with our families. If I spent 250 of those hours more being present, well, most of them were at night when the kids are sleeping, but that's not the point. I'm just saying that time could have been allocated so much better than watching other people on Instagram. I have also learned a lot from people on Instagram. You can learn a lot on Instagram. I'm just saying for me, my time is better spent somewhere else, and it was a very hard truth.
There's a lot to unpack there, but I would like to say that everything in the world, not just Instagram, is designed to distract you, because when it distracts you, someone makes money.
Yep.
Whether it's watching a YouTube video, like that's money going somewhere, whether it's to YouTube, to the creator, whether it's TikTok shops, like everything is designed to farm your attention so someone somewhere can make money. So you're not the only person that falls into that trap. Like it's literally designed to be addictive for a reason. So being able to cut that tie, it's really hard because it crept in really, really easily.
So I was watching a video by I'm gonna get his surname wrong. Luke Belmar, or I'm sorry if I just butchered your name. Anyway, he's this very successful entrepreneur that I watch quite a lot, and he was saying that like TikTok and Instagram, the Reels, was made to mimic slot machines.
Yeah.
You swipe and you see what you're gonna get. You swipe and you see what you're gonna get. You swipe and you see what's gonna get. And it's called a feed because it's feeding you to stay there. And the dopamine they've measured of going is exactly the same as you get from gambling. Like another one.
It's also the lights and the vibrant colors. Same as the pokies. That's why they're so bright and shiny, and there's so many flashing lights and stuff like that. The concerning thing is that most people's attention spans have gotten smaller as content bites have gotten smaller. So that's why shorts are shorts, and that's why TikToks are so short, because you can just flick through. And if over the last 10 years people's attention spans have virtually gone down to 30 seconds, I can't imagine what it'll be like in the next 10 years.
I'm not trying to go full on like tinfoil hat here, but If they came out, no, let's if they came out and they said, we're releasing this new form of mind control, everyone please sign up, the whole world would be like, no way, I'll see that coming, you won't trick me. But instead they called it social media, and we were all just like, yes, sign me up, including me. And literally, like you say, what they do is, and I have no issue with social media. I very much enjoy social media, very much. I am a partaker. I am like, I loved it, which was part of the problem. But I think what it comes into is we've lost the ability to have self-control and discipline, where you can say, I'm sitting here, I've got nothing else to do, I can go on, enjoy it for what it is, and then switch it off. We've lost the ability to switch it off and be like, okay, that's enough. And also, it's become, sorry, when Sam asked what the topic for this podcast was, I was like, I just have a lot of stuff I need to get out. So she just has to ride with me.
I'm riding, don't worry.
But also, one thing I've realized is that we have this sense of entitlement. Like, we should be entitled to have time to watch TV. We should be entitled to have time to be on social media. We're entitled to have that. Says who? Where did you get, where does this come from? Like, who says, and then, because it's always so funny to me, people are like, I'll talk to people about my business and they're like, so when do you get you time? And then I ask someone, so what do you do in your you time? And they're like, oh, I'll just take some time to be on social media. And I was like, that's not you time. That's not, you're not feeding yours. If I believe in me time, if I'm doing things that actually improve me, I believe in me time being about personal growth and improvement. The problem is I was spending that time doing things that weren't doing any of those things.
Yeah. I've been in that trap before. I think sometimes all you need to do is just make yourself so busy that you don't have time.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of social media usage now, but just simply because if I do, then I'm just going to be up late and then I just get annoyed with myself. Yes. One of the best things I ever did was turn off notifications for everything. It helps so much.
I had an addiction. I was addicted to the Instagram, and I'm happy to say that because it's the truth. But I genuinely was. And then it's funny to see how naturally you progress to other things. Because then when I put the time on Instagram, I was like, oh, remember that game I used to play? So I got back onto the game. And I was like, and then before you know it, I'm spending that time on. And I'm like, no, stop.
Yeah, you replaced it.
I've also started leaving my phone. Like, when I come into the house, I put my phone down. And I just live in my house. And it doesn't have to come with me everywhere. I've got a watch if someone calls me. Okay? I've got, like, I have to put the sound on, which is so ew. But just so you can hear it ring if someone needs me. But, like, I've started to put it down. And then it's like, but then you don't get offers immediately and stuff. And honestly, that's fine.
I mean, the offer will be there when you come back. There's not that much competition in your sector, I don't think.
There's really not. And I do check Instagram, eBay regularly, but I've also switched to doing 90% of it on my computer.
Yeah, that's such a huge bonus.
Yeah.
Like, I got back so much free time when I just worked from the computer.
Yeah. And I'll sit down every hour. I get a lot of customer service because of the nature of what I sell. So I'll make time every hour, hour and a half to sit down and run through all my queries and allow 10, 15 minutes to give people the opportunity to respond if they're available immediately so we can have a conversation. If they're not, no problem, I'll catch you on the next one.
Yeah. I think for me, when I am more present in like doing everything that I need to do and actually achieving what I want to achieve, I'm able to go to bed and put my head on the pillow and like fall asleep because I know I've given it my all. Like, I don't have any of those doubts. I haven't got the whole like, oh, I missed by 10 or any of those things. Like, I should have tried harder. I should have been more present. I should have, spoken to my partner more. Like, none of those things creep in. It's just like, all right, good night.
Yeah.
Done.
I also have so much less anxiety since I don't do everything on my phone. Like, there's this thing where you carry your phone and you have a business that is open 24/7, any business, where having your phone with you means you're always available. Okay? And it's good for business. You should be available when you can. But it's also good to have some boundaries and say, I'm going to put my phone down now because I have other things to do and I'll get there when I get there. The thing is, when I kept having my phone with me and I kept seeing the notifications and I kept seeing like the amount of anxiety it induced is just insane. Where now every hour and a half I'll go sit down, I'll deal with whatever problem there is. But I have my phone on me all day. A message pops up. Oh, what is this now? Is something wrong? Is something? Oh, there's a return. Now I'm angry. Oh, there's a cancellation. Oh, I hate these people. Like the amount of no, but it's
No,
constant.
I know.
Do you know what I mean?
I do.
Where like if I'm in my mind, I've decided I'll deal with it all at once in an hour and a half. I sit down, I deal with it, and I'll tell you something. Once I get up off that chair, I don't care. Return it. No issues. I'm done with this. Like, I'm done with that query. Bye-bye. And I can carry on with my day instead of carrying it around with me, being angry about it all day. Like, also for me personally, it's a good thing to not respond immediately because my immediate response and my thought out response is two very different things.
Yeah, sometimes I need to walk away for a couple minutes before I actually send anything, or I should put it through like someone else and be like, please reword this so I don't sound like an awful person or something like that. Whereas if I walk away and come back, like the person's either going to open a return or not, doesn't really matter. Whether I respond or not, they're still going to do it, and it's probably going to do it for the wrong reasons. So I think though, the more that you can remove emotion from your business or anything in life, the easier anything you're doing is. Like, it doesn't matter if it's like sending an email to your boss or confronting a situation where you've tripped over, I don't know, a pair of shoes that your partner or kids have left on the floor, or in your case, you might have stood on some Lego or something. Like, the more you can separate your feelings from how you respond to that situation, the better that situation is going to be. You're going to have a much better outcome.
I was reading it was actually a Bible study, but I was reading where they said having the thought and saying it out loud should be two different decisions.
Yeah, I
They
agree.
are not combined. They're not one thought, they're not one action. You can have a thought and choose not to say it, which might sound very logical to a lot of people, but in my head, the two are just say what you think all the time, immediately, no filters, just get it out there. And that you should have seen my husband's face when I told him this. He was like, really? But also what I think inside doesn't have to become what I say or even what I feel.
Well, it doesn't necessarily mean it's fact either. It's just how you're interpreting the situation.
And also, mostly if you reflect on it, it's you interpreting it very wrong in the
Most
moment.
of the time,
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you put it through previous experience lenses and like any maybe trauma that you've experienced, like those sorts of things. Like that. So I had my post office scan everything is delivered instead of received last Thursday. And it caused so many headaches for me. And you could tell based on the buyer's responses which ones had been scammed previously.
Yeah.
Because the ones that were like, oh, cool, no worries, clearly haven't been scammed. And the ones that were hurling abuse were the ones that have clearly had some issues in the past. And despite multiple messages back and forth, I wasn't able to appease them. And a lot of them opened, I don't know, receive cases. And it is what it is. Like, I can't change how they perceive the situation.
I need to do better on my customer service, and that's something I've been reflecting a lot in the time I have to do work on myself. Is I think I sometimes fall into the trap of seeing eBay customers as one body. Like, no, but like this customer did me wrong, so I'm going to treat everyone like this now. Or this customer cancelled, so now all buyers are wrong. And I fall into that trap very quickly. And I've actually gone back and looked at some of the conversations I've had with buyers, and for me, I wouldn't say I'm outright rude, but I'm not as accommodating or as friendly or as appreciative as I need to be. Do you know what I mean? Like, Taken Sports has this thing he says where he goes, I am so honored that on eBay, a customer chose to buy my item of the billion of things on eBay. He chose me and my item. And I don't feel that's reflected in the way that I have been with people in the last couple of months. So I'm making a very big effort to be a lot more accommodating, to be a lot more. So for instance, I'll give you an instance. There was a guy who wanted to return an item and I sent a return label. He opened the item not received case for something that doesn't fit. So I was instantly annoyed with him. Item not as described. So he lied about, okay. And so I was instantly annoyed. He then sent me a barrage of messages about I need to send him a QR code so he can print the label in the store because he doesn't have a printer. But I'm already annoyed with him because he lied on the return case. So I was like, no, sorry, I've given a return label. That's all I'm required to do.
Mm-hmm.
He then escalates the case with eBay. He leaves me negative feedback. It turns into a whole hoo-ha of me having to be on the phone for hours to sort this out. eBay does close it in my favor and they remove the negative feedback and that's fine. But quite honestly, all it would have taken for me was to go back into the label, print screen the QR code and send it to him. And that would have been the end of the situation. It was coming back anyway. Okay, so what am I proving here? And the thing is, I was angry because he lied on the return case. But how many buyers do you actually think know that it matters?
Oh, very few.
There really are very few of them who realize that it actually matters why they return the item.
Yeah.
And, for all I know, this guy really was just some old guy who just wanted to return something he bought. He's a pensioner. He might be struggling with his it. Like, afterwards, I thought to myself, you created this whole mess that you had to deal with for hours just because you wanted to now stand your ground. And it's ridiculous.
You were stubborn.
But
you hurt yourself.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And
you didn't hurt him. He got to keep the part and got his money back.
No, we had to send it back. We got it. Like eBay made him send it back. But eBay then sent him a return label.
Okay. Yeah.
That they paid for. And I was like, you know what? That's terrible service. Terrible. So that's horrible. That poor man's going to be scarred for life from buying on eBay. Yes, he was rude. He wasn't, the messages weren't nice. He was rude. He's obviously a very grumpy person. But that's not the point. The point is I could have resolved this all in 5 seconds.
He also made you a very grumpy person.
He didn't make me grumpy. That's just default me.
Here's a question for you. Do you think that the secret to improving your business is working on yourself rather than the business?
Yes. I kept myself back last year. I was the problem. 100%. I made decisions out of feelings. I didn't show up the way I should have because of how I felt. I let things get me down and get me upset, and then I didn't want to work as hard, and then I didn't want to honestly, my biggest issue is my lack of maturity when it comes to dealing with my emotions. And that is so deep, and I'm going to pay someone else to listen to that conversation because I probably need someone qualified. But I think 99.99999% of it came down to me, and the other 0.00001 is definitely my husband's fault.
Poor Martin. 0.00001% of that is the kids.
100%. How about you?
It's one of the things that I've realized the most over the last couple months. Is that ultimately, at the end of the day, you can listen to as much as you want. You can read as much as you want. You can do whatever you want to do to try and improve yourself. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is you working on you. You have to be willing to show up. And 90% of the time that we're doing this by ourselves. There's no one else forcing us to do this. So there's no motivation coming from anyone else. There's no boss breathing down your neck. It has to come from you. And you have to be your own motivator and give yourself your own dopamine hits by doing it. And if you don't have the desire, it's not gonna happen, unfortunately. But you are the only person that can give that to yourself.
That is so much responsibility, though. No, it is, but because it's so true. I don't want to.
I think it's the greatest thing in the world, because if you realize that the only thing you need is you, then the sky's the limit. Because you are already here.
That's true. How many people are willing to do it, though?
Well,
Like, I'm going to do it, kicking and screaming. I'm not going to do it with a smile. But how many people? Because there's been a lot of conversations, especially in January. People reflect a lot on their businesses, and then a lot of conversations come, and a lot like the one we're having now. We're trying to see how to improve ourselves, how to do better. We weren't fully satisfied with what happened last year, and so there's a lot of self-reflection and it's been so interesting to me to hear other people, how they reflect, how they take it in, the conclusions they come to. And one thing I've realized is that there's not a lot of people who are willing to go as far as you need to go.
Yeah, I know what you mean by that. And it's tricky because obviously everyone has their own like reasons for that, or like their own perceived limitations, or their own obstacles that they experience to be able to achieve what they want to achieve. So it's hard to kind of like put like a blanket over that. I just like, because I'm going back through my old shed, because obviously I fill to the sheds in tubs. So I'm going back through.
I did not hear shed.
Huh?
I did not hear the word shed.
Oh, shed? Do you want me to say it with more of an accent?
No, that's not what I thought you said.
No,
I go back to my own something else.
No, shed, where I store my products. And I'm seeing the listings that I did and the items I listed 2 years ago, and I'm like, it's forcing me to reflect back 2 years ago. And the amount of difference in my business in simply 2 years of just showing up and working on myself and my mindset, and like realizing what I'm actually capable of when I apply like 5% more or 10% more, and then realizing, wow, what happens if I do like 20% more? Like, I'm not going to hurt myself in the process of doing that. Like, I won't allow that to happen. But what could happen if I do apply myself for an extra hour every day? Like, what I'm going to watch Netflix as the alternative. So maybe I could watch Netflix and do something productive at the same time. And seeing the differences in what I was listing 2 years ago and my mindset for why I listed those was because I was so broke. I needed any money I could get. So I would list anything I could get, because a lot of it I was getting for free, or like cents, literally like 2 cents. And so I would throw everything up to try and get even $1 because I was so broke 2 years ago. And now I'm making over 400,000. But the difference, like, broke, over $400,000 in sales. 2 years. That's it.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I think also it's about how much effort your hill takes to climb. Because like we said in one of the other episodes, we all have different hills we want to climb. Yes. We have different goals. And so how much effort the hill I'm trying to climb requires so much effort. The hill someone else. And I think for me, I've also learned to not push my goals and my motivations onto others, and being able to listen to other people and learn from them, take things away from them without trying to impose your goals on them. Because I hear a lot of people who have different goals than ours, and I find it hard to understand, but it's fine, you don't have to understand it. But it's because I'm so very much into what I'm doing that I guess you start just thinking like everyone must be doing it.
Yeah. And I guess that's where the beauty of business as a whole is. Like, you don't have to let it consume you. Like, you don't have to like want the highest mountain. You don't want to have to climb Everest. Like, sometimes people are just happy getting up the hill. And if you asked me 2 years ago if this is where I would be and this was my hill, I would have laughed at you, because I didn't think what I'm doing is possible here where I'm currently located, let alone what I'm projected to hit like this year. because I think that as you make it to one like mountain, then you look off into the distance and you're like, oh, maybe I'll tackle that one as well. Like, I think as people grow as individuals, they maybe climb different mountains as they go.
But I love that. I think there's so much to learn in that. I think there's so much motivation in that. I think just you can relate to anyone who just has a goal that they're working towards.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I've been trying to take away from a lot of conversations, is that our goals might be different, but we have it in common that we have goals.
Yes.
And that's a great place to come from when you're trying to learn from people.
It's why I get so motivated having these conversations with you. Like, I don't have 3 kids that I'm caring for. I don't have to maintain a house where I have to be present. Like, I don't have those responsibilities. So if you're achieving those things with those responsibilities built in on top, how can I, as someone that doesn't have them, not push myself to try and achieve more? Like, it seems like I'm not performing when I am surrounded by people that, in my mind, are doing so much more with so much less time.
My postman is at the door and I'm trying to figure out if I should just like ignore him. My apologies. I have a parcel box, so you can put it in as well. I'd like to very much this year but spend a lot more time with other people who have goals, not necessarily people who have the same goals as me. I'd really like to build a bigger network of people who are in different areas of the business, or have different businesses. I've started to listen to a business podcast here in the UK that, so what they do is they get people on with businesses who have goals that they don't know how to reach, and then they sit and they talk, and it's so fascinating. I was listening to one of someone who has a workwear company, and I think I want to broaden my insight and my knowledge out of my specific business.
Okay.
More.
Yeah. Are you looking to like network with those people, or?
Yes. I want to get into networks and groups and businesses where it's not just so focused on what we do. I think there's so much out there to learn, which is only spoken about in other places. I don't know how to say it. Like, as in, like small business networks. I want to get into small business. I want to talk to people who have all kinds of businesses, because there's so many things in other industries or ways of having business that we can bring into what we're doing. But because I spend 99% of my time with resellers, we're very focused on this particular type of business. Yeah. And I'd very much like, and I would actually love to have people on the podcast who have other businesses. Like tradespeople maybe, or people who provide a service, and actually sit down and learn about business as a whole. Because I think that's what's lacking in a lot of what's lacking in my business is I only see business from a reselling perspective.
Yeah, that would be really interesting. I find hearing people that are outside of reselling talk about business and their journey through it, I find that so interesting because it's so different than what we do.
But I think there's so much to learn. I think there's so much to take away from, and we focus mostly on reselling, like in the groups I'm in or in the people, and that I've learned so much. But I feel like if you really want to take it to the next step, you've got to get into circles where it's about the broader topic of business. And that's what I really want to focus on this year. So instead of spending that time on social media, I want to get into some small business networking groups, start watching different kind of content that's about business in general. And I think that's going to be one of my main goals for this year.
That sounds good. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe you find an interest in other areas of business.
But that's a way of expanding your business. We often think of expanding business only as listing more items, maybe getting into property, maybe like there's so many other avenues out there. You might run into another side business you can do, or another thing you want to invest in, or another. I feel I've been very isolated just to reselling, and I want to get out and deal like.
You could invest in someone else's business as well, like be a not necessarily an angel investor, but like a private investor where you don't actually have any like day-to-day responsibilities, but you get a percentage of the sale values.
We should get some business owners on the podcast. Business owners who don't do reselling. We want resellers as well, please. Like, we want to talk to resellers as well. But I'd love to actually see the process, hear from someone how they started a different business, how they think they can grow the business. Like, because we're so versed on how to do it in reselling, that I think if we broaden our knowledge and we see other businesses and how they expand, for all we know, we might come up with some revolutionary ways to grow our own business. They won't be revolutionary. People have been doing it for ages, but it might be to us.
I mean, we might even learn different things about cash flow and
I know.
Like how to leverage time and money. It could be
so
very
if you guys know anyone out there who has a business, own a business, run a business that's not reselling, or if you know any great resellers you want on, let us know in the comments. I'd love to have more business orientated conversations this year, talk more about business in general, learn more about different aspects of the business. Definitely cash flow, definitely growing a business, even employees. Get people who do manage employees on. I'd love to hear from someone who has to manage employees and what that takes in the processes. So if you guys know of anyone, or if you're listening to this and you have your own business and you want to come on, just drop us a message in the comments. I know today's episode was a lot. I had a lot going on in my head, and it probably will continue to be for a while until I get everything out that I had to store in. But we do thank you guys for listening and for coming back and for still listening to our stuff. We really do appreciate everyone.
I was going to say that you actually seem a lot calmer than some of our previous episodes. I know that you're like, oh, it's like a mental dump, but I feel like you're actually a lot calmer after this break that you've had.
I honestly feel like I'm a lot more thought out. Like, my brain doesn't feel scattered. I feel like I have very precise things I think about and I focus on, and I actually love it. Like, I struggle to go to sleep at night, not because I'm laying there and like my mind's going, because I have so much good things to think about that I just cannot stop. And then I have to have like a talk to myself and be like, honey, go to sleep. And then I argue with myself for half an hour over it, and it's just a whole mess. But I'm thoroughly enjoying being in my own head.
It's
I don't
nice.
know how many people can say that, but there you go.
It's nice when that switch goes because you're like fully showing up for yourself and your family, and you're like, wow, I rock.
Also, the amount of times Martin walks into the house and I'm like, oh, you won't believe what I just thought about. And then I can just see in his face, and he's like, oh no. Oh no, what is it now?
I love that.
It's love and life. But thank you guys for watching. That's our first one for the year done. Many more to come. Hopefully we can take the podcast on a different direction. Not different direction, but we go into a bit of different things. I think we've pretty much exhausted our own reselling journeys at this point to talk about. Not the journey itself, but so let us know if you have any suggestions of people you want to see in the podcast, if you want to come on the podcast, if you have any topics you want to hear on the podcast. Let us know, and thank you for watching.
Bye.